Tell me, what is your purpose in this world?
What my purpose is today may not be what my purpose is tomorrow. To just be fluid and be able to go with what life has in store for each one of us.
A soulful journey into understanding yourself.
Reliving some glorious moment in the past. Feel as though I sold my soul to the devil. There is a higher force that's directing everything.
Hello, wonderful people. This is Anupam Satyasheel, founder and CEO at Occams Advisory. And we are welcoming you to the latest episode of our podcast, Inception to Infinity. Today, join me in welcoming Michael Fischman, who is a distinguished professional who has had 2 career track records practically, an impressive executive on Madison Avenue, and he gave up that career to pursue something more spiritual, something more philosophical, something more fulfilling. He's the founding member and ex-president of the Art of Living Foundation. Art of Living Foundation is in 200 countries almost and has got more than 10 million volunteers who make it one of the largest volunteer-run organizations in the world. Michael is also the director of Sky Recovery Program and a published author. Michael wrote the book Stumbling into Infinity, which is a soulful journey into understanding yourself. Michael, welcome to Inception to Infinity.
Thank you, Anupam. It's nice to be here.
So, Michael, before we get started, I have to first thank you and compliment you on your tireless journey of helping people understand their purpose in this world. I personally have been a part of Art of Living for close to 15 years. I've done some of your meditations, and to say the least, they're life-changing. Tell me, what is your purpose in this world?
I don't think it's something that's so definitive as just one thing. There's so much to our life, and purpose is something that's constantly changing. So what my purpose is today may not be what my purpose is tomorrow. I think that's really something that's quite important, to just be fluid and be able to go with what life has in store for each one of us.
So, Michael, you have helped thousands of people discover their purpose. What is that journey like? How does it work when people come to you and come to Art of Living and they're either stressed or they're burnt out or they have faced challenges they did not sign up for? And I have personally talked to hundreds of people who have benefited from Art of Living. When I say you, I don't mean like you personally are doing it all the time, but this incredible organization has helped millions, and at least hundreds I have spoken with, in understanding their purpose and living a more purposeful life. So tell our audience about Art of Living, about your journey, what got you here, and how is it coming along for you?
So I think the greatest challenge for almost everybody is to have a say over your own mind and your own emotions. And for most of us, the mind is all over the place, right? It's either in the past or it's in the future. We're angry about the past, reliving some glorious moment in the past, or we're anxious about what's going to happen next. And that causes a lot of turbulence in the mind. And we don't know how to manage our mind. And we also don't know how to manage our emotions. And that's exactly what Art of Living is all about. It brings this technology, an ancient technology of breath and meditation, into something that's so easy for everybody to adapt into their lives. The founder of the Art of Living Foundation is Gurudev Sri Sri Ravi Shankar, who's a tremendous humanitarian and spiritual leader. And he's brought this technology to just about every country in the world. And it's something that really can benefit people's lives. Because if you try to figure out your life just on the level of the intellect, it can only get you so far. But if we can go beyond the intellect, beyond the emotions, into this incredible space that I would refer to as consciousness or being, something very magical happens in our life.
So in today's world, Michael, when everybody is talking about I had the pleasure and privilege of being in the room when somebody asked Sri, who needs no introduction, about what does he think about AI? And he says augmented intelligence, not artificial intelligence. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, I think it's more about absolute intelligence, being able to tap that reservoir of intelligence within inside of us. And once you start doing that, you realize there's so many talents, so many abilities that we have. I think many of us just see ourselves as very limited. I am this type of person or I am that kind of person, but we're so much more than that. For me, that's what I found. I found that once I stepped onto the spiritual path, that I discovered so many aspects of myself that I really didn't know was there. When I was a kid, I really struggled in school. I've been diagnosed as being dyslexic. But when I went to school, nobody knew that that was what was my life was all about. They just knew that I was having challenges with reading and spelling and comprehension. And after I was involved in Art of Living many years later, I wound up writing a bestseller, Stumbling into Infinity. And where did that come from? Something just sprouted out of me. And I think once we have the ability to eliminate stress, tension, and open ourselves up to unlimited possibilities, so much could happen in our lives.
So I want to know more about the possibilities and the infinite horizons. But before that, I do want to set the stage by going back to the history of how things have come by. Today, Art of Living is a major organization in the US. I know thousands of people who participate in your wonderful meditations and learn the art of living, literally, from the foundation. So tell us, how did it come by? How did you meet Sri Ravi Shankar? He was a young man at that time, just like you were. People at that age are looking for other things in life, not looking at spiritual elevation. So tell us more about how that happened.
Well, I grew up in New York City and I lived in Manhattan for an extended period of time. Nothing felt satisfying. I was working at an advertising agency, Ogilvy and Mather, as an account executive. And many times I would come home and feel as though I sold my soul to the devil. It just felt as though it wasn't me. I wasn't growing. I wasn't expanding. Just frustrating. And I got in my car and I drove out west. It took me like 4 months. I had a tent and a sleeping bag. And I saw a lot of the United States. And then I wounded in those days what I would have considered the new age capital of the universe, Santa Monica, California. And one day I was in a health food store looking for the perfect wheat-free, sugar-free, taste-free cookie. And I collided carts with this woman, and she told me about Art of Living. She said very little. She didn't explain that there was breath work or meditation, and just the way she described it, emotional intelligence. I knew it was something I wanted in my life. And then I came and I learned Sudarshan Kriya, the core technique that is part of Art of Living. And it was just so powerful. I had been meditating at that point for a dozen years, but I had never experienced that inner stillness to the depth that I had after I completed Sudarshan Kriya for the first time. And I would say since then, my meditation has really unfolded and gotten deeper and deeper and deeper. And then there's all the inner wisdom that comes with meditation and all the wisdom that I acquired just being in the presence of Gurudev.
So I have so many questions, Michael, on this topic. First and foremost, Sudarshan means a beautiful vision. Am I getting it right?
Right vision, correct.
Right vision. So what does this meditation entail, and what does it do for people who participate in it?
I would say that ever since we're an infant, we have learned to suppress emotions. If you think about it, when a baby cries, what do you learn from your parents? The mother picks up the child and pats the child and says, shh, don't cry, don't cry, don't cry, don't cry. And then you learn crying is not appropriate. And then you become 6 years old or 8 years old, and other kids start bullying you, or you don't fit in somewhere. And you're not going to cry because you learned that doesn't work, and all the kids will think you're really weird. So what do you learn? Push it down, suppress it. Then you become 16, 17 years old. You have a crush on some boy or some girl. And do you express your emotions? Well, then you're not going to be considered cool. So what do? Again, you press it down. And then you get into the corporate world. You can't stand your boss, or the assignments are chaotic. And do you explode in the office? Well, then you're not a professional. So what have you learned? Let me push it down again. Then you get married. And are you constantly going to blow up at your spouse? Well, that's going to destroy your relationship. So once again, so life is just a matter of suppressing and pushing it down. So how do we manage that? One day that's going to just blow up, and we're going to feel totally disoriented. And what Satyasheel Kriya does, it's a rhythmic breathing technique. And it just works with the natural rhythms of breath. And what that does is it eliminates and purifies the nervous system. All those toxins, emotional toxins, all that suppression that we've put into our nervous system gets released in a very natural, gentle way through the breath. And then afterwards, we feel so much lighter, freer. It's quite amazing. I think most people have never experienced that state of deep rest as they can after they do Satyasheel Kriya. I teach these programs through a particular facet of Art of Living called the Sky Recovery Program. We teach this program in recovery centers around the United States and many parts of the world. And we're working with people who have had a challenge with sobriety for a really long time, various different substances. And after the course, it's amazing. People just say they've never felt so alive, so relaxed, so like the high that they've been looking for, they finally experienced it through meditation and breathing. It's just something incredible.
So, Michael, now that we have understood what Satyasheel Kriya is somewhat, let's continue with your experience with Art of Living and how you built it up in late 80s, early 90s. You bumped into this lady. She told you about Art of Living. You quickly got hooked onto it. What happened after that?
Well, I wouldn't say that I got hooked onto it as though this was a technique that just blew my mind and, oh, I was addicted to this technique. Really, I would say what happened was I met Gurudev, and I got to interact with him on a regular basis, one-on-one. And I found somebody who was so wise and so charming and really understood the depth of the human experience, every facet of the human experience. And he had this reservoir of knowledge that was very applicable, not just to me, but to millions and millions of people. And that's really where I think the transformation took place, for an opportunity really to understand one's mind. There are many theories, many psychiatrists and psychologists who have written many, many books on the mind. But the ancient Vedic tradition, I think, offers something to our times, to the modern times, which are very challenging now, whether economically or politically or socially or financially. So many challenges we have to deal with. But where are the challenges? The challenges are not necessarily outside of us. The challenges are within.
You met Sri, and I had the greatest honor of seeing him a couple of times. He's such a divine soul, if I might say. Like it's his humility is disarming and unnerving. He's such a incredible force, but when you sit next to him, you feel utmost peace. But coming to the point of what motivated you to build this into a national foundation, which obviously has gone on to connect with millions of people?
I really wish I could take credit for that. I would say there were many, many volunteers who helped build the Art of Living Foundation. I was just at the right time and at the right place. And I was there with Gurudev at the inception of the organization. So it was a spiritual adventure for me. And I realized that it was something I had to do. And that's how it was for me.
It was a calling.
Calling sounds very, romantic. I mean, looking back now, obviously it was a calling, but at that time it was just an adventure.
Okay. So the adventure continued, and you were joined by hundreds and thousands of people. And along the way, sometime you found enough time and insight to write this wonderful memoir, Stumbling into Infinity. It became a bestseller. Tell us more about it.
So I wrote this book from the perspective of an individual who spent a lot of time behind closed doors with a spiritual master. And really, what happens behind those closed doors? How does a teacher work with a student to bring out the very best in that student? And I would say that I wasn't the best student of all. I was probably the most difficult for Gurudev, constantly challenging and constantly getting into some kind of mischief, even though I was at an ashram and on the spiritual path. And how did Gurudev bring the very best out of me? So I wanted to put that all in a book, and that's what the memoir is about.
For those of you who might not find enough time to read your book, what is that you would like people to know about this book?
Well, I think I've kind of shared that. It's how do you overcome the obstacles in your own mind and become the very best person you can be.
In the journey of becoming the very best person one can be, I'm reminded of our North Star statement, which talks about elevating the potential of our clients and our employees and our cohorts. A lot of people today feel stuck. They feel that they are not in control. There are larger forces which have taken over their lives, be it economic, be it emotional, be it even spiritual, which they might or might not be aware of. Psychological, I mean, I can go on all dimensions they feel stuck at. And they could be like you when you were on late 80s, when you felt that something was not fulfilling enough. So these people are feeling stuck. Is there some message that you have for them of how they become unstuck? Like, what is the massive journey or leap of faith they can take to moving from being stuck to freeing themselves up?
Well, one thing I can say is that life is a happening. And I think a lot of the stress is frustration because we feel as though we are in control. And the reality is you're not in control at all. There is a higher force that's directing everything. So we want to be the writer, the producer, the director, and the promoter of our film. And yet we're really none of the above. So how can you learn to go with the flow? Yeah. I think that's a really big thing. First of all, to realize that there is a flow to life. Most people won't even see that there is a flow. And then once you realize, oh, there's a flow, being able to go with the current. That doesn't mean you don't give your 100%. You don't get engaged in activity, but trying to control everything, that just brings a lot of frustration.
Talking about the film, I believe there is a film that you are a part of, which is on Art of Living's expansion. What brought that about, and how is that coming along?
I think that's going along quite well. It's a film that's being directed by Priya Narayanan. It's called Head to Heart. And it is a film about the very early days of Art of Living. And also it gives an understanding of what does it mean to have a spiritual teacher in one's life from a perspective of a group of people. And what is the inner transformation that happens?
So, Priya is your wife, and I know her personally. I had the privilege of knowing her. For our audience's awareness, apart from being a seasoned psychiatrist, she also is a producer and has worked in legendary movies like Lagan and Talash, which are both Indian movies, but Lagan was Academy Award nominated, from what I remember. Both of you are a part of Art of Living and have known both of you as pillars of the community and society. Does it make life easier to have a partner like that, or is it too much of monotony?
Well, I think having the same vocabulary and having common interests definitely makes a difference in a successful relationship. And what I found is that many of us emotionally, when we have some trigger that happens emotionally, we get angry or we get frustrated or we get sad. We're always looking for the cause of that emotion. And where is the cause? The cause is outside. Because you didn't smile at me, I'm sad today. Because you didn't say good morning, I'm really angry. So who has the anger? I have the anger. But who caused the anger? You caused the anger in me. Now, if I go through life like that, and I think this happens many times in a relationship, we blame the other person for how we feel. So if I'm blaming someone else outside myself, I become a victim and I've lost all my power because the world has more control over me than I have control over the world. And really understanding that I am responsible for my own experience of life. I am responsible for my own emotions. Okay, you may have said something to me that made me angry, but I'm the one who has the anger. Now, how do I manage my emotions? If you don't have that technology through breath work, through meditation, through inner awareness and knowledge, then you're really at a loss. But having those tools are so valuable for an individual to take responsibility for themselves. So whether you're an individual who's living in the inner city and having many challenges at home, or you're a corporate executive and you're having challenges in the workplace, that is something that I think is really critical for every individual. Otherwise, we get so stuck. Do you follow what I'm saying?
Absolutely. And one of the interesting phenomenon that the society is experiencing right now, you're talking about stuck and unstuck. We do know that human beings are social animals and we thrive in communities, but there's a lot of isolation these days. We are hearing stories, and data backs it, of people not leaving the basement of their parents and having a virtual life of AR, VR, Instagram, whatever you call it. How, in your, I know you help many university campuses and people deal with this. How big is this problem, and what is your suggestion of how do we tackle this?
No, it's really is a big problem. I think it's so obvious since the iPhone has come out. People are just glued to their phones on social media, and younger people even more. There is a feeling of isolation, but that feeling of belongingness is something we all want to experience. So we talked a little bit before about taking responsibility for your feelings. Have you noticed that? The more you take responsibility, the more you feel connected to things. And
Yes.
the more I take responsibility, the more powerful I become. So in the workplace, for example, if a individual is not taking responsibility, why are they not taking responsibility? Because they don't feel that sense of belongingness. Has management created an environment where belongingness is part of the corporate culture? Or has the university created a sense of belongingness as part of the university culture? If there's more belongingness, people will take more responsibility. But it goes the other way around too. The more you take responsibility, the more you feel that belongingness. One great way to take responsibility is being part of the social change, doing some service for other people outside yourself. And that's such a great tool. The more you can do service not in your occupation, but something outside yourself, you start feeling that connection to the whole universe.
Indeed. On top of isolation, this is something where the data is less compelling and clear, but we also hear people talk about an increasing degree of polarization. Countries, after decades of globalization, are trying to go inwards. We have leaders worldwide, and without getting political, I'm saying leaders worldwide who are more and more concerned about their country's interests and not global interest. You represent an organization which is all for the world. Like they say, Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, the whole world is a family. Do you see this as a challenge, as something to reflect on, as an opportunity to step up? What are your thoughts on this shift, if I might say?
I think the things are constantly moving in the world. And one time it goes to the left, and one time it goes to the right. And then eventually it comes back into balance. So we're in a pattern change right now. And I think a lot of that pattern change has to do with the wrong understanding of life. It's based on greed, what's best for me, not what's best for everybody else. And it could cause a lot of turmoil for a lot of people. But I think change begins on the level of the individual. So again, you can get caught up in, oh my God, how could this all be happening right now? Political climate, the social climate. Yeah, that's definitely happening. But what about you? What about you as an individual? What's happening inwardly? I can tell you one thing, if you're more content and more joyful and more happy, you can flow with everything that's going on in the world and everything that's going on in your life. And you don't feel so like heavy from the entire situation. One thing Gurudev said on the very first course that I took with him was we give away our smile for nothing. We don't value our smile. I didn't really think about it back then as though it was such a profound statement, but now I realize how valuable our smile is and how we give it away for nothing.
That is true. Health and wellness is probably the most important asset we have, which allows us to do other things. I don't mean to disclose your age, but I happen to know that, and I also know that you're an extremely healthy person physically and mentally. We also have some kind of healthcare crisis in this country. What is your thought? What is your message? What is your most pressing opinion on this topic of the way health is not being prioritized by people? Not only they're giving up their smile, they're also giving up their health behind all the highly artificially processed food and the instant gratification of the taste right now versus understanding the value of nutrition and health.
Absolutely. We should pay more attention to our health. We should eat as healthy as possible. But what about our mental health? That's something many of us take for granted. And I think once the cravings and aversions can subside in the mind, then we can start looking at other aspects of our lives. But if we're constantly thinking that something else is going to make me happy, food is going to make me happy, sex is going to make me happy, career is going to make me happy, travel is going to make me happy, power is going to make me happy, then we're always running after something. Can we come back to ourselves, slow down a little bit, and realize that very thing that I've been looking for all along has always been there. It's always been inside of me. It's everything. Then you can start taking those steps, because otherwise it becomes an intellectual process. So I can tell you, these are the 7 foods that you should eat every day. But, for like 2-3 days, you're going to follow that. And then the 4th day, you're going to do whatever it is that you do, because we're stuck in these patterns. Yeah. And the major pattern is you think that thing is going to bring it to me. That's going to be the source of my joy. And you realize it's not. It just gets you exhausted.
Indeed. You have touched hundreds and thousands of lives. Someday, the world will look back at the contributions made by you to the mankind. What do you think the world will remember you as? What do you want the world to remember you as?
I don't think I want the world to remember me at all. I would like the world to just move forward.
Very wise.
I don't think I'm playing such a significant role on the planet that the world is going to remember me. And I don't know 10, 20, 50, 100 years from now if people will even remember Art of Living or Gurudev Shri Ravi Shankar. But maybe they will remember that there is a technology for going inward. And I think as time progresses, that science of meditation and breath work will just become the norm. Right now, it's a little out of the box. Not everybody will embrace that and think, oh, that's proper technology. I don't really need that. I have this, I could do that. I can go to the gym or, but it is really something that is so essential.
Indeed, it's essential. From where I see it, there are many other people who are taking on the mantle of bringing this awareness to masses, and I hope that the world keeps moving in the right direction.
Anupam, I don't think there's only one way. That would be impossible for so many billion people on the planet to only have one way. You should find your way, and your way is the best way, but it should be a way that allows you to cope with stress. There can't be one meditation technique for everybody. Find a way to quiet the mind. That, to me, is something really essential.
So, Michael, we are almost at the end of our time, so I have to ask you, for the benefit of our audience, where do people find you? What's the best way to connect with you?
The best way to connect with me is you could read Stumbling into Infinity. That would be a wonderful way. If people wanted to get in touch with me personally, I guess they could contact you through the podcast, and then you could forward the information to me.
Absolutely. So that is a wrap on Michael Fischman and my conversation today on Inception to Infinity. I appreciate you listening to this. And if you would like us to host a particular person, let us know. If the different topics, by all means, tell us, and we'll be happy to bring in people who can talk about those topics. Michael, thank you very much again. This has been an absolute pleasure and privilege for me to get an hour with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Anupam. It's been a pleasure.